Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, and welcome back to another episode of the Account for Life podcast. I'm just excited to be back, man. Doing some traveling, got caught up in the airport, and I'm just excited to be back home. So today, how to avoid poverty, and this is revisited. We did a rendition of this March 10th of 2022. I had been reading Proverbs, in that month, and I did something around chapter 10. And when I looked at the Bible a couple of days ago for this, I just was like, you know what, let's revisit this poverty thing. Poverty is still prevalent. Poverty is still prevalent. And a lot of times we don't know that we are in poverty until or never. You know what? Most people don't even think about it, but we think that poverty is just, malnutrition and, folks living over in Africa. But no. Poverty. I'm going to read to you what poverty is. I'm going to read to you 4 ways to avoid poverty. 4 ways. If we make sure we don't do them, then we won't have to live in poverty. The first way is this: avoid having lazy hands. What is a lazy hand? Listen, lazy hands. In chapter 10, verse 4, it says, lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. What? Diligent hands that are willing to go to work, people that are willing to work. Now, here's the thing. Listen, work and job are 2 different things. I'm going to say that again. Having work and having a job is 2 different things. And even sometimes having work and having a business is different. Because you can have a business and be lazy and not necessarily be doing the right work. So what is work? That's why we got the Account for Life podcast. Work. What is what you've been born to do? Work is what you've been born to do. Listen, back in Genesis chapter 2, when God put Adam to work. Why did he put Adam to work? And I think I'm going to read it to you. In Genesis 2 and verse number 5, it says, now no shrub had yet appeared on the earth, and no plant had yet sprung up, for the Lord God had not sent rain on the earth, and there was no one to work the ground. There was no one to work. There was no one to work the ground. There was no one to manage. God created Adam to manage some stuff that he had created. And because that was his work, that's all he had to do, all he had to focus on. And it came natural to him because God tested to ensure that he worked according to how he had set him up. He says, Adam, what is this thing right here? Oh, that's a dog. Hey, Adam, what is this thing right here? That looks like a cat. Hey, that's a tiger. That's a lion. That's an elephant. That's a chihuahua. Adam got to look at things and call it by a name that he said, because he was born to manage the creation that God gave him. But he was also born to be a creator. But before you can be a creator, here it comes. Before you can be a creator, you've got to first understand work. See, because what if Adam started trying to create some things and he didn't even understand the basics around all the things that God had already created that he needed to be looking at and he needed to be managing? Then his the creation may not have been what it should be. So that's the first one. Avoid having lazy hands. Number two is discipline. Number two is discipline. And what is discipline? What is discipline? Discipline, and discipline goes with the same verse, right? Discipline is one of these things. I think somebody was just telling me that I was disciplined. And here's the thing, a person can be disciplined in one thing, but lacks discipline in another thing. Like I could be disciplined in doing a podcast and disciplined. I'm doing 500 push-ups every single day. So we're doing a challenge, which if you want to join that challenge, hey, come connect with me on Facebook. You can find my personal profile. I still got room for plenty of friends. Connect with me on Facebook. I just started this. This is the third day of the challenge. And, anywhere from 10 to 500 push-ups a day. 500 is my max right now. Maybe I'll get to a thousand push-ups a day. But here's the thing. Discipline is how I got there. Discipline. And I've learned, listen, because I became disciplined doing that, I've learned how to do other things. What else did I learn how to do? I learned how to create content, even if I don't have anything prepared, because of discipline, because of doing a podcast every single day. Now, I'm not telling you that everybody should do a podcast. But because of who God created me to be, then a podcast had to be done because it brings out who God said I am. See, discipline is one of these things that, and I've talked about this year. Discipline. We must become disciples of who God said we are. When we become disciples of who God said we are, discipline is just a part of it. And it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. I'm so disciplined. I was in the airport coming home yesterday. I needed 200 more push-ups to do. I had done 300. I figured I was going to be able to do the 200 when I got home because I was supposed to get home maybe around 9 o'clock, 10 at the latest. I'll be able to do them. We get stuck in the airport. I just dropped down and started doing push-ups. Because I says, I don't want, because I knew I was going to get home late. I didn't get home until, what, almost 1? Almost 1 o'clock. Well, maybe it was more like 12:30. Got around 12:30. I didn't feel like doing no push-ups at 12:30 in the morning. I would have missed the day. So I had to do the push-ups, the 200 push-ups in the airport as I waited, and I got finished just before we had to board that plane. Discipline. You must have people that are pleasure seeking is another way to avoid poverty. And the thing about pleasure, I'm looking for my verse where I highlighted. I can't see it. It says, I don't see the verse right now, but there's a verse that talks about folks being pleasure seeking. Listen, the interesting thing about pleasure is one of these things that we all want. We all love pleasure. Oh, I love me some pleasure, man. But here's the thing. If we want to avoid poverty, then we have to put pleasure after we do our work. So we don't want to just be focused on the pleasure of living. We want to focus on the work of living. We want to focusing in on who God said we are. We want to focus in on the fact that if God gave you an assignment, think about this. If God gave you an assignment, if you were sitting in God's office and he called you in, you would be reverent. You would be like, wow, God called me in and God has a special assignment for you. He says, hey, Jay, I've got a special assignment that I'm not giving anybody else. Now, other people may have similar assignments, but they're not going to be the one that's just for you. Are you going to be willing to give up that pleasure to do this assignment for me, Jay? That's what we gotta think about that today. We gotta think about that. This is only the 10th day of the year. That means that we still have 356 days, because this is a leap year, 356 days left this year to discover who we are. But why do I want to take the whole year to discover that? Now, I'll be doing. I want to know what I'm doing in the process. But I don't want to wait the whole year. I want to be doing it. So let's avoid the pleasure, at least while we are learning who we're supposed to be. Lastly, number 4, watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Now, I highlighted in chapter 10 a bunch of places where I circled mouth, tongue. What else did I circle? Lips. Might have been like 10 or 11 times mouth, tongue, lips were mentioned in this chapter. And what I was taken away is that your mouth is one of these things that could cause your demise, that could keep you in poverty. How could it do that? Oh, man. You ever heard or said, man, I'm so broke, I'm ready to choke? You ever say that? Imagine saying you're broke all the time. Where you going to be? So your mouth is the gateway to how your life could be. Your mouth is. You know, it's funny. I caught myself yesterday complaining about some things as we was dealing with some issues coming home. And I said, wait a second. What am I doing? I'm complaining. And it was interesting because once I caught it and realized I was doing it, when we got home, check this out. This is the last story. We get home. Now, they had to rebook us because our flight got delayed. And then we was about to get on. We was headed on to the flight to go from Dallas to Charlotte and then from Charlotte to DC. I looked at the time. I said, yo, we're going to miss our flight. We had an hour and a half connection. Well, hour and a half layover in Charlotte. And that hour and a half layover, we had been delayed 1 hour, but then we got delayed another 20 minutes. I said, oh, we're not going to make it. We're going to get there. We're going to be running, and that plane's going to be closed up. And we was like, well, let's go over here and talk to the lady. Talking to her, she's a nice lady. Maisha was her name. She had really nice, were they like gray eyes? They were really nice, and they were her eyes. Because I asked her, because I was like, yo, those your eyes? Like, were you born with those? She says, yeah, I got them from my mom. My mom's the same way. I was like, dark-skinned woman. So it looked a little, it's different, right? When it's a dark-skinned woman having like really nice gray eyes, whatever. So we're talking. So she's going to book us. She's rebooking us. She gave us some options. And so we were like, all right. She says, well, you can fly a straight flight from Dallas to Washington, D.C., Reagan National Airport. We were supposed to go to Dulles Airport. I said, but what about our bags? She says, oh, the bags are just going to go to Dulles. They're going to stay on that flight and go straight there. I was like, all right, cool. So we had to take an Uber from DC, from Reagan National, back to Dulles, because that's where our cars were. So we said, oh, let's go in. Our bags should be there. We get there, bags aren't there. So we're talking to the baggage lady. And she was like, and so she's looking in the system. She said, your bags aren't here, but they're still in Charlotte. I'm like, what? Why are they still in Charlotte? I'm almost there. I'm like, why are they still in Charlotte? She didn't know. And while we were there, then all of a sudden the bag was like, oh, the bag is headed to DC. They had to Reagan National. What? The lady told us that. So I'm telling you the story because just before I realized that I had been complaining. And I was ready to start complaining again about, I want to get home. It was Jenny's birthday, even though we did a really good party for her on Saturday, but still wanted to I wanted to get home. I was planning to be home early. I thought I was going to be home by 8 or 9. So I realized that, man, sometimes when you don't realize it, and you're complaining all the time, and you're saying stuff you shouldn't be saying about yourself or about the situations around you, we start living out those situations. That's why when we watch our mouth, like our whole lives can change. So we got to watch our mouths, right? Because these things will help us avoid poverty. And so let's go ahead and revisit lazy hands. Want to avoid that. Want to be disciplined. We want to not be. We don't want to put pleasure before work, and we want to keep our mouth clean. We want to watch our mouth so that we could actually realize that, wow, whatever I say, I want to actually happen. So let me just say, I am rich. Let me say that one. I am strong. Let me say that one. I am healthy. Let me say that one. I am loving. I am awesome. I'm amazing. Yeah, let me say all those things and not say anything. Oh, this sucks. Not going to say anything like that. My life is good. What about your life? Is your life good? Are you able to see how it's so simple to avoid poverty and live in the life that God called us to live? Look, let me know in the chat if you got value today from this podcast, because guys, we're looking to reach $100,000+. I said dollars, 100,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel this year. We're going to do it. And I want you to be a part of that because we don't get anywhere without our friends, the people who support us. So we are looking forward to just impacting lives in 2024 so that the work that we've been given can get done. So guys, I appreciate you for joining me for this episode of the Account for Life podcast. Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, helping you to account for your life. God bless. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Thanks for joining us, listening friends. We are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.